Hello everyone, and first of all, happy Easter. I was here thinking, taking a break from, in this beautiful paradise here in the Philippines, and I was like putting together some thoughts, and I wonder why not sharing them with my dear followers. So here I am today with my beloved cigars that helps me to remain calm and sharp, but at the same time allows me to put all my thoughts together and do my best to share them with all of you. So today, apologies, you're not gonna see some nice charts and deep dive analysis, but I would like to take the occasion to comment what happened in the past 48 hours that I believe has not been very well covered in the mainstream and in social media. Maybe because of the holiday period, maybe because of the significant amount of censorship effectively that has been going on for quite some time. So I want to bring everyone attention today to the oil price and first of all to the developments that have been around Kuwait and several oil facilities in that country that have been severely damaged in the past 48 hours. Furthermore, not only oil facilities have been severely damaged, but also there are reports, very trustworthy, of a desalination plant being hit. So clearly the war in the Middle East is escalating to a level that everything that was thought so far of being like a temporary problem is developing into a more and more long-term infrastructural damages and problem. And in this situation, there is an incredible amount of unpreparedness, in my opinion, especially in Europe. Last week, I warned about fuel shortages coming as soon as next week, starting from Wednesday in Europe. And those fuel shortages would have been visible in the first place with regards to jet fuel. And if you look at the comment about that, you can definitely see how people are still living in denial. And in my opinion, that's dangerous, because being in denial also means that you're not prepared for what's coming. And now a few days later, you have the first headline that comes from Italy, where apparently there is already rationing for jet fuel in major airports in the north, and especially jet fuel is going to be rationed for all like short haul type of flights. Be aware this type of rationing is 100% going to materialize very soon and in other countries. Perhaps it's already happening, but it didn't trickle down in the news yet. But what's more problematic, in my opinion, is an element that so far has been dismissed, and this element is how Europe, differently from Asia, it didn't do much yet to prepare itself to withstand oil shortages. What Europe did so far was to control prices effectively, to keep prices low, to target the SPR releases for a mere short-term benefit, perhaps under the false assumption that the situation in the Middle East would have come to a quick conclusion, something that put Europe in a very bad spot. And what I highlighted on X yesterday about Asian countries bidding very hard for oil that is already on water, and several tankers leaving the US en route to Europe, then diverted to Asia, is a sign that a bidding war among countries already began. And what's concerning about Europe is to a certain extent, not only denial and perhaps even wrong measure taken so far, but the lack of coordination, as usual, among countries. So, in the next week, something important is going to happen in the oil market in Europe, where the spot price of Brent is already $30 higher. And what the futures market is telling everyone is like, if you wait a little bit longer, you will have a cheaper oil. Well, here is where the future markets in Europe, but also in the US, is very wrong. Because if you wait longer, you might not get the oil at all, especially at those prices. And this incredible mispricing in the market led not only retail people that, as I flagged in my latest podcast, piled heavily into US oil short position with inflows above and beyond what experienced in the past, but led a lot of professional investors to build short position on oil. And this is very dangerous because even if the recent futures on the Brent just rolled over with limited disruptions, in about 10 days, the futures on the WTI is going to roll over. And that means that a lot of those people that currently have a significant amount of short position, they will have to face a choice between closing those contracts, delivering and rolling the contract. And as everyone knows, when you find yourself in a situation of rolling a future contract with such a steep level of backwardation, it's incredibly expensive. And again, even if there is more and more visibility of this matter in social media, still it's a fraction of what I believe it's supposed to be. And the fact that prices, no matter all that's happening, no matter the destruction, long-term destruction in the infrastructure, the potential escalation in the next 36 hours, because that's the countdown, the limit that Trump gave everyone. And despite, it's clearly this thing is not going to end anytime soon, keeping prices artificially low effectively didn't trim the consumption whatsoever. So while there has been a significant supply destruction, there has been no demand destruction of a significant level whatsoever so far. These putting all together bring us very close to a moment, a watershed moment, where the market can potentially behave in a way that we never saw before with this structural setup. As I said many times, I like to warn again, we saw something similar, but the complete opposite in 2020, when at that time traders thought that the COVID was a short-term blip and everyone was long in the future markets. And they didn't account for lockdown to collapse the demand. And once that was realized, oil price quickly collapsed and famously closed negative. I'm not here saying that I'm gonna see a price going to infinite, but what I'm saying is that just look around, just look at the price of jet fuel, just look at the price of gasoline, diesel across the globe, and look at the price of crude oil. Those spreads are clearly nonsensical. And I'm not here saying that everyone should be long oil. no, I'm not never said that, but what I'm saying is that you should be very careful about entering into a market that on the surface the water looks calm, but underneath the currents are incredibly powerful. And trying to swim in this market in the wrong direction can displace yourself and create significant damage to your financial. So here is my comment for today. I am, my thoughts here is that there is no way out for this in the short term. I try to be always as objective as possible, and I hope you appreciate that. I don't care about engagement farming and all this like breaking news here, breaking news there, and whatever. What I care is to share my honest thoughts with everyone, so there is not gonna be significant shock when events ultimately are gonna hit. So keep an eye on the real news that are going to come more and more after Easter. Keep an objective eye on market. Be very careful in following fear of missing out, momentum trend and whatever, when there is the risk of a potential significant shift all of a sudden. I'm not here to say stocks are gonna crash. I don't care. There is a market that is completely like all over the place since many years. So I don't even think that stocks are gonna eventually like crash overall. I more think there is gonna be a rotation from sectors that are gonna suffer the most because of oil prices and because lack of capital. Don't forget this. To sector that are likely gonna benefit, like energy, that still is incredibly limited in weight in the current markets compared to what it was in the past, despite being such a fundamental part of the economy. So there is a lot of money to be made with the right positioning, and there are a lot of losses that can be potentially avoided. Overall, I suggest to cut your risk to the minimum, not to use leverage, and to be mindful of filtering out all the nonsense that is polluting social media and mainstream media as of late, focusing on what's real, because ultimately what's real is what's going to surface into asset price sooner or later. So happy Easter again. Thanks a lot for following me and supporting me on X at justdario.gpx, and for reading my research on justdario.com. I wish everyone a nice end of holidays.